What's going on, guys? Ty here, Bitcoin Media. I have an awesome episode for you today. I get to sit down and speak with Scottie B. If you haven't checked out Scottie B on YouTube, I've been hooked on his content. He does a great job of just going through methodically through different topics. He picks players, he picks products, he'll pick like topics in the sports car world and just break them down like a professor would. And I love it. That's my type of style. But his channel has just exploded. He's at 10,000 subscribers in less than a year. And I don't think subscribers necessarily is a fair barometer on if your channel is that good or not. But I'm telling you right now, Scottie B's channel is excelente. And we just had a great discussion today. We talked about our strategies for 2022, some tips that he had and I had for baseball cards, some players that we liked, some sneaky products that we liked. And it was just a great discussion. He's just a good dude. Both of us have some Idaho connections, and it was fun. I think you'll like it. Now, I will apologize. We were having a little bit of a connection issue. The audio is great, but the video kind of gets fuzzy in certain parts, and it wasn't any one of our faults. We were just having both kind of StreamYard issues last night, and so we just had to deal with it. But the overall conversation's outstanding. I think you'll like it. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll keep putting out this good content. All right, enjoy the conversation with Scottie. So I'm excited to bring in Scottie. Scott, man, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Ty?
I'm doing good. I'm excited because we've already connected the dots. You're an Idaho guy. I'm an Idaho guy. There's not many of us. What the heck?
I can't imagine there's too many Idaho collectors out there. You know, the population is not that big in and of itself. So it's nice to have that happen out of nowhere. So that's great.
Yeah, it is. Is that why you're a Rockies fan? Just because there's no Idaho sports teams? You kind of just defaulted to Colorado?
Yeah, you know, we have the Rockies. There are blackout restriction in Idaho. And then we also have the Mariners, also our blackout restrictions. So those are the two closest. You know, as a kid, you're always a Broncos fan from where I'm from. It's the same thing. No major sports team to follow. So I adopted the Rockies. I lived in Colorado Springs for about 2 years. So that made me like them even more. And then that's kind of just stuck ever since. Unfortunately, you know, you kind of get into a specific team and you can't leave that team. And even though the Rockies are a terribly ran organization, I can't leave them at this point. So I have faith, even if it's 50 years from now, when I'm in my 70s, maybe they'll win a World Series someday. But
the price of loyalty, right?
Oh, I know. I secretly, like, for example, you know, I'm a Rockies fan, but I also collect Mookie Betts. And so I have a real issue with him going from Boston to the Dodgers because you can't root for the Dodgers as a Rockies fan because they're our big brother. We've never been able to beat them ever, you know. So we even had our best year in a long time, and we lost to them in game 163 to lose the division. But I have to secretly root for them just because of Mookie Betts. You know, you want your sports cards to be more valuable, so you don't want them to fail. But so once he leaves, though, never again. So who's your team? I've discussed that with you.
Yeah, so I'm from Kansas City, so I know exactly what you mean, right? I mean, luckily the Royals and the Chiefs have both been champions recently, but for the Royals, it was a 30-year drought, and I'm a Mizzou Tiger fan through and through. So me and the kids, we deal with the frustrations of being a college fan of a team that just can't figure out a way to win.
Totally. Well, so for me, college-wise, the only college sport I follow is college basketball, like closely. And I root for Gonzaga. My dad played basketball at Gonzaga.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played with Stockton, so he started over John Stockton. But
what?
Yeah, my dad was a senior. Stockton was a freshman. He started over Stockton. If you actually read his book that Stockton wrote, he mentions my dad as like one of the few people he couldn't beat in one-on-one or something along those lines. But then my dad had the school record for most assists. Stockton broke that. And he obviously went on to be much more successful than my father. No offense to my dad.
Yeah. Did your dad make the pros?
No. So he had offers to do like European stuff, but he chose not to. So he decided to do the next best thing and become a school teacher. So
hey, a little bit of a gap between wages there, I'm sure. Maybe not back then, but now there is.
But I don't know if you know this as well. I'm okay, forgive me. I don't know if you know this as well, but Billy Butler's a guy I collect. So if you're a Kansas City fan, you should know who that is. He had some good years back in the early 2010s, and then some really not so good years in the late, like mid 2010s. But yeah, he married my sister's best friend, and so he actually was the assistant basketball coach with my dad while he was coaching in Idaho Falls, and So I got to hang out with Billy, play him in horse, and ever since then, he's been a fun guy to collect. So,
That's crazy. Why in the world would you collect Butler? What do I need? Like why would you go along with him?
you can see the bobblehead up there. But yeah, just because the guy, he actually got me back into baseball. I always collected basketball. And then because I watched every single at bat of his, it got me into baseball entirely, which led me to baseball card collecting. And so he's kind of the reason I'm back into it all from when I was a kid. So
wow, that's incredible. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, Billy Butler, I obviously being a Royals collector, have my fair share of Billy Butler cards, but once he left, we became less interested. So I might have to offload some Butler cards to you.
Yeah, man. I'll trade you my Mike Trouts for him. How does that sound?
Deal. All in. All in. All right, man. So let's back up a little bit for folks that don't know who you are. I've been sucked into your content for a while because I look at you and I watch your stuff and I'm like, I feel like I enter the classroom and it's like Professor Scotty walking through stuff. You pull out like a slide deck and you walk through things. I love your style. Step back into the beginning and give folks a little bit of like, what's the history of you and why did you get into YouTube?
Yeah, well, thanks. So for those that don't know, I have a channel called Scottie B Cards. I focus on modern sports card investing. I know people have their own opinions on whether modern cards can be investments or not, but I started back actually a year ago this month on January 3rd, 2021. And the reason I started is because I had a coworker who I always discussed cards with, and he doesn't collect cards, but we're both Rockies fans. And he decided that you got to start a channel. You got to start a channel. I didn't think anyone was going to enjoy the content because, like you said, it's very educational. And I talk about a lot of different topics. I don't have really big openings or anything, but I figured not many people focus on baseball cards because they're always focused on basketball and football. Yep. So it's like a fun opportunity. And then it just grew and grew. And it's been a really fun time for me in the hobby as I've connected with so many people because of it.
That's crazy. So yeah, I mean, you've been doing it a little less than a year and you're what, 50 subscribers away from 10,000? I think last I looked.
Almost there. I think I should be able to hit 10,000 tomorrow. I usually on bad days you gain 20, on good days you gain 50. So I'm close and I'm excited for it.
That's incredible. Good for you, man. Good for you. It's amazing when you do stuff that you're really good at and you focus on like your strengths, you forget how people just are attracted to that.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting. I was telling my wife, my videos are very educational. I literally have like a pitch deck that I would use at work, but it's just like a classroom lecture. So I'm sure my content is dull to some people, but I think others enjoy it just because it's a little bit different than what's out there.
No, it's good. And you're right. It's that the polarizing topic of cards being an investment, but obviously now it's kind of, it's the norm to talk about sports card investments. What is your take on the sports card market as a whole? And then we can kind of dive into some specific things heading into 2022.
Like the state of the hobby, or
what's the state of the hobby to Scott?
State of the hobby, I think we're in a really good place. I know we're not nearly where we were in the peak this last year or two, but that's okay. I think we're finally at a place where we're figuring out where we're going to be sitting for the next little while. I think a lot of high-end cards are overpriced. And I think some people don't realize that some of that funny money that's being spent is real. And so I think there could be a slight correction on the ultra high end. But where I sit, even baseball cards in general, unless you're collecting really high end vintage, you're not going to be having 30, 40, 50, $100,000 cards very often, unless you have some super nice high end Bowman Chrome. So for me in the baseball card market, I'm really confident in it. And I know modern can fluctuate based off of performance. But out of all the sports, I think baseball is in the best spot just because, the ceiling may be lower, but I also think the floor is higher. So
yeah.
For me, that's kind of how I've been focusing. I've been really trying to consolidate my collection, just like everybody is, from the more common stuff to the more rare stuff and all those things. But I think the hobby right now is actually in a good spot.
Yeah. What's when people freak out and they look at the hobby and they're like, oh my gosh, it dropped 40 or 50%. And you respond with, well, I still think it's in a good spot. Is that because you feel like the floor is kind of set now, or we've added enough collectors and there's enough momentum on the backside that?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. For me, it's tough because anybody who's gotten in the last 12 months probably isn't doing as well as anybody else who's been in the hobby longer than that 12 months or 24 months, whatever it is. So for me, for somebody who's had a lot of Mike Trout rookie cards from 2017, and 2000, like, Mookie Betts got in really low on his cards. Of course, it doesn't feel as bad, but I think now at this point, I'm personally a collector first, and I can show all these different ways that you can make money. And if I followed those same practices I talk about, I'd have a lot more money. But it's one of those things with the hobby. Money's great. And I tell my wife all the time, if my cards went to zero, I wouldn't care. Of course, we'd care, but it's not the same concept. Like if I had no sentimental attachment to it, it would be devastating. But where I do, it's not a huge deal. So I think now at this point, we're not going to see as big of market fluctuations for the next little bit. So I think in that sense, just having some sort of normality on like cyclical card trends with, spring training ramping up, it makes sense. And then it cooling off as football starts in the fall. And we actually saw that this last end of the regular season after the playoffs. We saw finally regular market trends with everybody's prices dropping. But I imagine it'll go right back up once spring training starts, assuming there's a season.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We actually had a video the other day with Mike, and the topic of the video is have sports cards come full circle. And the thesis there was that we've really come back to where we were just 2 years ago. And the people that have come in the last 18 months, 12 months have no idea that normally there are cycles in sports cards. And you can step back and be okay with it because that's just the way it is.
Totally.
It's kind of cool to see it back.
And I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on the hobby? Like, where do you think we're at right now?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you. I think we're in a good spot. I really do. I think we're in a good spot. I think there's a lot of new collectors that have stuck, and the call-in fodder, if you will, has fallen out, and that's totally fine. They weren't going to last anyway. They've gone to NFTs and something else, and that's totally cool. I think now that we've come full circle and we're back to where we were, maybe the floor is a tad higher, 5 to 10% higher. It's all good. Inflation's much higher than that anyway. I do get concerned about print runs. I do get concerned about what happens with Panini. Like, did they disappear? But I'm not concerned. Sports cards are here to stay. I'm really surprised you're not into vintage, being that you are such a rich baseball guy. Usually baseball guys are very much into vintage. Is there a reason for that?
You want to hear a funny story about vintage that just happened to me?
Yes.
So recently, I have vintage. I have like some I have a Willie Mays rookie that has some value to it that I got luckily before the boom on his card prices. And I have some other Hall of Fame rookie cards, but nothing too crazy. But I have like a really big attachment to the modern players just because I can actually see them play. And it's a little bit easier to predict when they're going up and down. At least it was. Now all vintage just always goes up. So that's a great thing to buy. But recently I sold about, $3,000 to $4,000 worth of my modern to put into vintage. And I was looking at some awesome cards, some really cool Rogers Hornsby Gaudies. And I was looking at a bunch of Hall of Fame T206 cards, and I was ready to pull the trigger on them. And then I saw someone on their Instagram story post a Mike Trout, Bowman Sterling, black refractor to 25, spent it all on the card. So I'm back heavy into modern again. So I plan on moving a lot of my cards there. It's just so hard when modern is something I know and love. And all these cards I've been chasing right now are cheaper than normal because of the offseason.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And it's always frustrating because you look at vintage, you're like, oh, there's going to be a dip some point, right? There's got to be some sort of pullback, and there just really never is. And it's kind of, you just have to either go in or don't screw with it.
And like you're saying, because more people are in the hobby, those that might not, okay, how do I say this? Those that are staying in the hobby who are collectors, they're going to gravitate towards vintage in baseball, because I think you have a cycle even in your collecting where you do all the modern, you buy the players you think are going to be good. The player I bought a ton of when I first started was Will Myers, because I thought he was going to be great, and he's not that great. And then you realize you can spend the same money on a couple of Mickey Mantles or a couple of Willie Mays 1963 cards. And so I think we graduate at some point to vintage. So
yeah, very true. Very true.
It's going to go down. It's only going to go up because more collectors are moving that way.
Yeah, no doubt. Will Myers he stole a piece of my heart when he got traded, and it wasn't his fault. Yeah. When we got James Shields in that trade, and it was like, oh no, he was our number one prospect for the Royals. And I unloaded a lot of my Bowen first of him, which ended up being a good decision.
I probably bought them. So
there you go.
When I was first kind of getting heavy back into it.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, I was very much like you, and then I was, really as recent as 2 years ago, did not care about vintage at all. And then I started reading history books about baseball, in basketball and football. And I started like getting attached to the stories of older players. And I'd get done reading the books and I'd be like, I got to go buy this guy's card now. And I got hooked into vintage that way. So maybe that same.
Definitely one player that I think is extremely undervalued vintage wise is Stan Musial. Such a good ball player. If you're from kind of that area, with St. Louis. And so Stan Musial is awesome. So he's one guy, if you're looking to get into vintage, go buy some of his stuff because if you look at his numbers, definitely top 10 baseball player all time. So
100%. My dad was named after Stan Musial. And I, in fact, this morning, I just sent off some Stan Musial cards to get graded at the SGC. So I'm excited.
Any rookies or just some 50s cards?
Early 50s stuff. Yeah. No rookies. Yet. Yeah. So it's interesting. So when you look at like your channel and you've been doing it a year, so you've probably seen like 10 to 12 months ago, people were gravitating to certain content, and now people are gravitating to different type of content. How have you shifted the focus a little bit and the content you put out to continue growing? What have you figured out?
So for anybody who's aspiring to start your own type of channel, and if you are, I highly recommend it. It's really fun. It makes you connected to the hobby again. You know this, Ty. You do it. But I try to stay relevant to the trends, but also look at it from a bigger picture. A lot of the trends are going to be focused on the very focused right onto what's happening in the moment, and that's a big deal. But if you can look at that and then take a step back, you can hit the trend so your channel can get some popularity. Because if you aren't using the YouTube algorithm to help your channel, you're not doing the right thing. But then on top of that, you can really push content you like and things you believe by preaching certain financial principles or just collecting principles that are tried and true versus just throwing all your money at Anthony Volpe and hoping that he's the next Uber prospect, when it's all so lucky and so random.
Yeah, I did. I saw your recent video. You're hilarious. It's hilarious you say that because I just sold a Volpe card or Volpe, whatever you pronounce his last name. And I'm like, this dude paid $300 for this card on my ComC account. I didn't realize I had this card in there. I'm like, people are getting so stupid. It's like Jason Dominguez last year. It's like you guys are pricing him like he's a Hall of Famer.
Well, so I'm a Rockies fan, and you know how many prospects in the history of the Rockies organization have been good? We have Todd Helton. We have Troy Tulowitzki, we have Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, but hardly any players in the Rockies organization have had Hall of Fame careers. Tulowitzki had major injuries that ended it, but now we have Benny Montgomery, and we have all these other young guys. People are paying an arm and a leg for these prospect cards, and you can go get a Nolan Arenado Bowman Chrome autograph for cheaper. So it just doesn't make sense with how prospects work to me. And I understand, I actually think prospects, if you're looking just to make money, is the number one way because it's such a predictable cycle right now with what you should sell. It's so easy. But then because once hit the big leagues, they're not going to hold the value unless your name's Juan Soto over the last 2 years, So I'm glad you sold though. That was smart. His stuff is hot right now.
Yeah. Well, I probably sold a lot of it too soon, but it is what it is. I know that too. I should probably hold Yankees prospects a bit longer, but what do? You can't nail them all. What's when you look at your channel, what video that you did in the last year surprised you the most with its success?
Oh, well, the first one, the whole point when my channel actually started to grow was when I posted a video when eBay released eBay standard envelope. And so that's my most viewed video. I think it's around 70 or 80,000 views. And it's just me over 9 minutes or something like that, really explaining how to use eBay standard envelope. Yeah. And so I've even had some inquiries on to do more videos like that from eBay and other people. So that way people can understand how to ship sports cards. So that's the first one that really got the channel to grow. And then other than that, I've had some really random videos be successful where I break down checklists of series 1, 2, and update. Those have been really successful. Some of my favorite videos I make are the least successful. I think that's what's more surprising to me is what isn't successful when I work really hard and it just doesn't get love. And then I'll make a 3-minute video talking where it took me literally 10 minutes to film and that gets 20,000 views. So that's kind of just how you understand that too. Whatever you think's going to work doesn't.
No, you're exactly right. What are your favorite videos to do?
Man, so this last year, and I actually I'm going to do another one here soon, but I did a video doing a torture test for which slabs protect your cards the most. And that's the most money I put into a video. I even bought a safety deposit box, put it into a fire to show how long it could last at certain heats. We threw cards off of parking garages and just to see which card is protected the most when dropped. And that was a lot of fun to make. But unless you have the really good thumbnail and title, it will get lost in the algorithm. So I have a second one coming for PSA cards to show how much they protect your cards. So that's one that I personally enjoyed making the most.
I love it.
Very off topic of the channel itself, but it was a really fun video.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, you're exactly right though. It's like you can put in as much work as you want in certain videos, and I've done that. We've done that as a crew, and I mean some of our most well-produced stuff with like the Pole and Matt, who I mean like legit video quality. We spend hundreds and thousands of dollars sometimes to do these, and they get like 800 views. And then you get your little selfie out there, and I get out my yard with the mountains, and I get 4,000 views in the stupid like 5-minute comment video, and it's like.
Well, it's the same thing for people who watch YouTube content. The number one thing is you go to all like the national, all these different show videos.
Yeah.
And then like it doesn't take much effort, and then those get 30, 100,000 views because people want to be a part of it. But that's one thing I'll personally never do, just to stay true to what my channel is. But it always gets frustrating, I'm sure, for other content creators who put in tons of time. And then, you can go film yourself buying a card, and that's views. It's kind of funny.
I love it. Trying to figure all that out is kind of the beauty of all of it, right? You don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. As long as you stay true to yourself, like you said, it's all good.
Yeah, all good. Create a voice, because that's the only way. It makes it more fun. So
yeah, no doubt. What influencers do you appreciate in the hobby, and kind of who do you stay in tune with to kind of keep your knowledge up to par?
Sure. Yeah. So Filmington, I don't know if you know Filmington.
Yeah.
Probably he was who I enjoyed the most of. And I would say if I was somebody do some sort of inspiration for me, I like the way he analyzed cards, and not many people do that. So I enjoy Filmington. I've had him on the channel. I think I'm going to have him on this month as well. But I also watch Joe at Silver Jackify.
Yeah.
He's one that's been around forever. If I'm doing breaks, Cardsmith breaks is up there. They're really good.
Yeah.
And there's a couple others that are really awesome, but you can go on and on.
Yeah.
Those are the ones in baseball I really enjoy. There's not many. Up North Collectors is awesome as well.
They're great. Oh yeah.
So they're a really good channel to watch.
Those are great. Those are great channels. I was giving Joe a hard time the other day because his thumbnails have him, doing these funny faces. Like I always make fun of people that do that, because it's like you're just trying to crack the algorithm with your thumbnail.
Want to hear a sad story? I found out with the algorithm, when I don't show my face, it always performs better. So I don't know what it is, but I have a designer that does all my thumbnails. That's why they look a little bit different, a little bit more professional. And once we stop using my face, it always performs better. So
I don't know what that actually says.
Either or it's either a mixture I'm ugly, or people just don't want to see faces. They want to see baseball cards. So
that's probably it. Well, it's worked for Sports Card Investor. He seems to like show every possible angle of his face, and
you're not kidding. You're not kidding. Jeff definitely is not afraid to have a shocking face out there.
No doubt. Well, so tell me a little bit about your strategy heading into 2022, or we're not heading into it. We're in it now. What's kind of your approach to sports cards now, knowing what your market view is? What are you excited about, and what are you thinking about doing?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things I think you could be successful with heading into 2022, the baseball season. The first one is vintage is an excellent play. I want to make sure I say that, because on my channel I don't give vintage enough love, and I think people underestimate it. But vintage is an excellent play for slow, even fast growth lately. But for me, I've been focusing on Mike Trout. Mike Trout, he has dropped a lot, but it's one of those things. Assuming he has a normal Mike Trout year next year and can stay healthy, his cards will go right back up. You look at the actual AL MVP voting. You had Shohei Ohtani, who had a 9 WAR season. Then you had Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a 6.8 WAR season. Mike Trout's worst season was 6.8 WAR. So Shohei Ohtani, I think, is going to have a hard time repeating. And if that's the case, I think Mike Trout just has a regular Mike Trout season. He has another chance at an MVP. Not saying he will, but if he does, that'll give him 4 MVPs, which is the most all-time for a non-steroid user behind Barry Bonds. So he's tied for the most right now for most that didn't use steroids, but that'll give him for sure the number one. So Mike Trout's one. I also clicked Mookie Betts, and his stuff has also fallen a lot, but he has a good season every other year. And his bad year last year was like a 4.2 WAR season. He didn't really have as much power. He was hitting at the top of the Dodgers lineup with less RBI opportunity, because it was his first time leading off in the National League with a pitcher behind him. So that will probably change with the DH most likely being implemented into the National League. So I think he'll have a big season as well. So those are the two players I'm really looking at. And then if you want to go a different route, I think with prospects, if you want to target, if you have the money to even target Julio Rodriguez and some of those other players that are approaching the big leagues, it might be too late on Bobby Witt and Wander Franco and all those different players. But those prospects follow such a predictable cycle that if you can get one you believe in, it can pay off. Just make sure you sell before they really get there. Right when they debut, sell, because it's a crapshoot after that.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts. There's a couple other players I'm thinking of, but not to be too long-winded, I would probably say Mike Trout and Mookie Betts are the two I think are undervalued just because they've been proven to be valued higher. And I think if they perform at all, it'll be the same situation.
Yeah. I dig it, man. Those are really good strategies. I think there's so many opportunities, not just in baseball, but since we're talking about baseball, just because the market as a whole has fallen so much, so many players have almost gotten forgotten.
Totally.
I mean, and you could argue that buying Mike Trout now is as good as buying vintage because Mike Trout's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like that's not up for argument anymore.
Yeah.
And you can get him at, I mean, some of the lowest prices he's seen in what, 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, and that's like not all rookies. His PSA 10 update is still ridiculously high. It's still, I think, a $2,800 card, which I think it's high, compared to where it was 3 years ago. It might be a good deal. It's a pop like 5,500, which in comparison to the new stuff is really low. But there's good deals like that. I think I told this exact card on this video already, but the Bowman Sterling Black Refractor number to 25, it was a PSA 8.5. That was less. Number to 25, that was less than his PSA 10 update. And so it's just like there's cards out there that are being slept on. I know tonight there's a finest refractor rookie from Trout, numbered to five something. That'll probably be less than $1,000. Those are like the type of cards I think can really have big jumps.
Yeah.
So it's just the more rare stuff is easier to flip if you're trying to flip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. That's good. No, I'm with you. There's certain guys like that are maybe not, obviously not bona fide Hall of Famers, but some of them are like the Kershaws of the world, the Max Scherzers, who I think are still severely underpriced. But even guys like Bo Bichette and Luis Robert, who come off of an injury, and has a pretty stellar second half of the season, are going into the season like pretty cheap.
Yes.
Compared to what you could pay for like a guy that's unproven. Like,
yeah.
I think it's no
brainer. Wrong. Bo Bichette right now. I was actually looking at his stuff. I'm making a video that's coming out Thursday. So if you're new to the channel, Thursday, there's a video coming out on the top 10 under 25 players in baseball to look at. And Bo Bichette surprised me how good he is. Yeah. Apparently, Fangraph says he's one of the worst defenders in baseball, which is kind of hard to believe. Yeah. But other than that, like his offensive profile for a shortstop, you can put him at second base even, is amazing. He had a almost 6 WAR season at age 23.
Yeah, that's
maybe there's some bias as a Rockies fan with Dante, but it's just one of those things where, he's the second best player on his team to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's a good 1-2 punch for 23-year-olds.
I'd say so. He reminds me a lot of Trey Turner, who also doesn't get a lot of love, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That'd be a good video.
And then, it'll be interesting. We'll see if it's successful or not on YouTube with that algorithm. But
no, I don't care. I want to know. I want to know who the top guys are in the 25.
And even Vlad, I think he is a very interesting case to look at. His defensive utility is non-existent, but his offensive upside is huge. And you see like David Ortiz, he could be similar to Ortiz when it's all said and done. And he holds good values, and so could Vlad. So
yeah, absolutely. What do you rip a lot of product?
I don't. I don't have the deep enough pockets. And I have a hard time when you can go buy, a specific rookie card for so cheap now. If I ever rip, it's almost always retail. And I know that's the least efficient way to rip, but it's hard to justify buying an expensive box. But if I'm ever going to rip, I'm actually got a box of Bowman's Best coming my way. So
yeah,
Best this year is a fun one.
Is that Wander Franco's true rookie?
Oh, man, no, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. If Beckett says it is, it doesn't mean it is. I know Beckett had a lot of hobby history, but we don't rely on them to be the top grader anymore. We shouldn't rely on them telling us what Bowman's best rookies, Wander Franco's rookie.
Beckett's not relevant anymore. Let's be honest.
It's his third Bowman's best card. He'll have a fourth one next year. So I think in the long run, it's going to be not going to be it. But it'll make the product interesting because if it does end up being that way, that stuff sealed is going to be worth a ton of money.
For sure. Well, it all kind of banks on Wander Franco having a stellar rookie year with all this hype going into it. Do you think 2022 Top Series 1 is going to be printed like we've never seen printing before?
I do. I think it's going to be, and I think I'm still going to buy it because of the rookie class. But I don't think I'm going to expect to get anything. That's how you have to approach wax nowadays. Is just you can't expect to make money. But no, I did the math for a couple months back about print runs. It's estimated that this 2021 Series 1 was like over 300,000 of each card. And then it increases like 20% every year. So that's going to be like another 400,000 for this year for each card. And that's not going to slow down. Maybe it will Fanatics now purchasing tops, but there's going to be a lot of 2021 Series 1. I want to see how many parallels they introduce because that's going to determine how much Wander Franco's cards are going to be worth, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I just did a video earlier today I opened 350 blasters of 21 tops update.
No way.
And I've done this for years, but my point I was trying to make was that even with a crappy product, and it's a crappy product in the sense from what we're used to, there's baseball collectors are so unique in our hobby in that they'll buy sets, they'll buy parallels, they'll buy lots. And if you have the time, you really can't lose in a lot of products if you do it the right way. But
Totally.
It's going to be really hard to argue that with the print runs that we're going to see in 2022.
You said you used ComC a lot. It sounds like you sold the Volpe card at ComC. If you're opening that much product, you'll find out that there are so many. I collect Billy Butler. Like no one expects that. People collect all these different players, and so any parallel you can sell for a decent profit. In comparison. How'd you do on your grip? I didn't see that.
Yeah, we'll end up with about a 50% profit margin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any big cards? What was the biggest hitter?
Right here, actually.
Let's see it.
Jared Kelenic, 1/1 plate.
Whoa, is that the debut?
That is the debut. Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome. Out of a blaster.
Yeah. Out of one of the 350 blasters, it gets monotonous as you can expect, right? When you're opening those blasters, and my boys help, and that was kind of a winter project, winter break project for them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. My mom bought me a hanger box of Topps Chrome because she was doing just be nice when she dropped it off. Pulled a printing plate myself. I was just hoping for a rookie, but I got Jorge Soler. So
hey.
Well, I looked at the exact printing plate, different color was like $6. So kind of a bummer, but still fun.
You still beat the odds. That's always fun beating the odds.
Like every 13,000 packs or something ridiculous.
Yeah, insane. It's funny, there really isn't much of a market for printing plates unless you get the top player in the product. Otherwise, it's kind of like throwaway, which I never got because I always thought that depending on the color, they were kind of cool.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm a Mookie Betts fan. So tonight he has very few rookies in his sets that he was a rookie in the end of 2014. There was a Bowman Sterling printing plate that was for sale. I was tempted to buy it, but I recently bought all these other things. But this Bowman Sterling printing plate did not even sell on auction at a starting price of $450. So it's just one of those things. There are deals like that, but $450 for a Mookie Betts 1/1 rookie couldn't even sell as a plate. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. That seems stupid. What's your favorite card in your collection?
Oh man. Oh, let me think. So I really enjoy my Mike Trout rookie cards. I can go grab them if you would like. If you don't want to, that's totally fine too. And I also like my Juan Soto Topps Chrome Update Refractor out of 250.
Okay.
And I do enjoy my Willie Mays rookie from 1951.
You better enjoy that, gosh darn it.
That one I spent a long time trying to get. And so the price I got it for was amazing. How I got it was pretty cool. So that one will always hold a place in my collection. So
I dig it. You seem very systematic. So do you have a way of kind of tracking your collection? Do you have a spreadsheet with the cards that you track consistently?
Yes. Yeah. So I didn't for a long time. And then for accounting and tax reporting, you really need to make sure you're taking care of it because if you get audited, you're going to have a bad time. If you aren't saving your receipts and your actual profits, you can't improve it. So that's made me be that way. It's made me be more systematic than I want to be for sure. Yeah. But I always preach diversification, but I'm always buying the same guys. I can't help myself buying Mookie and Trout. So it is what it is.
You're diversifying teams at least.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a Rockies fan. Actually out of current Rockies, I don't have many with Arenado and Story gone now. So
yeah, that's true. What with all the hype about the 1099, the new thresholds,
Mhm.
do you give much weight to that?
I mean,
Affecting the market at least?
I do, only because if you aren't careful with it, again, you have a bad time with the IRS, just because everybody's gonna have to be reported over $600 on eBay and all these other selling platforms, PayPal, and that's basically one sale nowadays. If you want to sell one decent card,
Yeah.
you're probably going to hit that tax reporting threshold. And if you ignore that sale, there's a very good chance you'll get audited 2 years down the road, and that's a bad time. So again, it's just one of those things. If you can keep track of it, don't wait till the end of the year to figure out all your sales for the year. I've made that mistake every year. I'm New Year's resolution. I'm not doing that this year, but make sure you're keeping track of it so you don't have to worry about it. But I do
Yeah.
put a lot of weight there because I've seen people get audited. I think some of the younger kids, there's teenagers who are selling on their mom's and dad's eBay account, and their parents aren't going to know to file the taxes. And when that happens, they're going to receive a letter from the IRS, and it's going to be a surprise for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. I'm on the other side where I don't think it'll necessarily affect the sports card market as much as we
Oh, yeah.
think, but you will see repercussions of it for sure a couple of years from now,
Yeah. I may have misunderstood your question. It's not going to impact how people sell. It's just going to impact their personal lives.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think the hyper overreaction is, oh my gosh, eBay, they're going to see a total, decline in sales and people are going to rush to card shows. And I mean, like you could easily break down the logic pretty quickly. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to go run to card shows and sell.
mhm.
Just keep good records. And
Exactly.
it's a piece of cake.
The bad thing is paying the tax on your gain. That does suck, the 28%. But it's one of those things where if you're just planning on it, it does eat into your profits, but it is what it is. That's what all adults deal with when they invest money. And we've been spoiled for so long as a hobby. And you can still argue that with your taxes and get away from some of it. But
Yeah.
if the government thinks you're trying to make money, which we probably all are, then they can come at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, we've done a few episodes with a CPA to give some advice, but yeah, there's some ways to alleviate that a little bit. But you're right. It's no fun working hard to make profit on a sports card or cards and then be like, oh darn it, I got to give a third of this away.
exactly, especially when it's big profit. I just bought I don't know if I want to say this on camera, but I just bought a card and sold it. I paid for like $300 for it. You sell it for like $4,000. So you're paying like $1,000 almost right to taxes. But so that always hurts. It always hurts.
Well, now you got me intrigued.
Oh, I'll tell you. It's a story for another day.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's one of those rewards for being in the hobby a while back, where you can get some of those lower cards and they really appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely got a few of those for sure. What is your favorite product of the year?
This year?
Well, in general, do you have a favorite product you look forward to every single year?
Yeah, I love Bowman's Best, and
Okay.
I think I make that clear in my channel just because what you can pull out of it is so much more enjoyable than opening a box of Topps Chrome. If you open a box of Topps Chrome, this year was 133 autographs in the checklist for rookies,
Yeah.
and probably 90% of them sucked. And so your odds of getting something decent are impossible.
Yeah.
And pulling a parallel nowadays that's lower than 100 is impossible. So Bowman's Best, you get 4 autographs. It focuses on prospects and rookies, so you can get more value, more players that have more sex appeal to them than some random pitcher for the Dodgers that will never play again. So, what about you? What's your? I don't think I know that.
I'm a big Bowman Draft fan. I love Bowman Draft, but if I'm being totally honest, and I'm focusing on baseball, I'll probably say Top Series 1 every year. Like I just go all in on it every single year, and I've just done it for so many years. I just love flagship.
Yeah, and obviously the breaks you always watch on YouTube are the big stuff like Dynasty, or you can watch all these different luminaries. I think that's what it's called, but I'll never be able to pay for those just because the risk reward is too intense for me in sports cards. So there's something romantic about Series 1 that just makes it so fun to collect, especially if there's a rookie to chase like this year.
For sure. And I do feel like Topps has done a good job of making inserts relatively hard to get.
Yeah.
So put together a master set takes a case or two, which I actually really like that. There's some appeal to chasing down the set.
Totally.
I think baseball collectors just at the root of our collecting. We love it. We love that.
Totally. No, for me, one of my favorite things to do is set building. And so the one I'm
Yeah.
working on now, and I'm almost done, is 2011 Topps Finest. I want the refractor or
Ooh.
better set. So I have all the big cards. And so anything that, remember, to 549 or lower. So I have everything from 101s all the way up to 549 and just different colors, and they're gorgeous. That's the type of stuff that I enjoy. And then I'm doing the Cognac set from 2011 Topps Update too. So I'm about halfway done with that. I have to buy the Goldschmidt and the Jose Altuve. Those are going to be expensive, but other than that, I'm enjoying it. So
Those are some like legit sets.
yeah, and so they're fun. You know, if you go for just the base set, you can complete it quickly, and some sets like these can take you a couple years. Quite a bit of money.
Hey, you know what? That's what happens when you buy a car for 400 and sell it for 4,000. You can put money into those sets.
Got to get lucky. You know, they always say a broken clock's right twice a day, so it's one of those things.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's awesome. All right. So a couple fun questions for you here. So what's your favorite TV series of all time?
Oh man, so I don't. One of them, I enjoy Supernatural, but I know it's like a high school girl show now at this point. So I do enjoy Supernatural, but I enjoy that. Stranger Things is good. I really like Star Wars. So the Clone Wars was a fantastic TV series. It's animated, but it's really good. And then all the new Star Wars shows are really nice. Growing up, I used to watch Ghost Adventures. So that was a big part of my
Okay.
childhood. And if
Yeah.
you go even younger, you have like Courage the Cowardly Dog. So
All right. All right. Boba Fett, we haven't watched yet as a family. Is it pretty good?
it's really good. If you enjoy Star Wars, it's
Yeah.
really good. A little bit slower than most Star Wars just because it's building the lore up and explaining how he didn't die when
Yeah.
everyone thought he was dead for 30 years. But no, it's really nice. The soundtrack's really good for it.
Ooh, nice. All right, cool. Well, I have 9 Boba Fett rookies being graded right now at
No
PSA that
way.
should be back next month, and I cannot wait.
That's awesome. Are they all autographs? Are they all just from the like 1970s? Is that 1970?
1979. Yep.
Is it 79? That's great, man. Anything high grade?
They're pretty good. I mean, I would be surprised if anything got a gem, but like I'm expecting a couple 8s and 9s in there. I found it in a collection from a guy that died, and he had a little box in the corner and was all 79, 80 Star Wars stuff. And there
Wow,
was like a group of like 10 Boba Fett's basically untouched.
that's amazing. Especially because for years they were worth nothing until
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last years when people realized how cool it was. Well, do me a favor. When you get it back, hit me up with the lowest grade and we can make a deal
All
on the
right. Deal.
lowest graded one. So
Deal. We'll make another trade for another Mike Trout rookie.
there you go. There you go. I have
Yeah.
that
All right.
finest refractor. I could trade you for it.
Deal. All right. What city would you most want to have a vacation home in?
Oof. So my wife, she's applying for doctoral programs for her school. She's a singer, so that's what she's going to be doing. And so she's looking at all these different schools, and I'm looking at them as opportunities to go watch some more baseball games. I'm from Idaho, so I never got to do that. So I want to live in like Houston, just so I have the chance to go watch these games more often. So I'd
Yep.
say somewhere with a baseball team. I don't want to go to Miami because the Marlins are bad, but it'd be nice to live in Anaheim to go watch Trout, go watch Otani, and then go to Disneyland. Plus, there's the beach. So I'd say right down in Orange County.
Okay. All right. So Orange County. Fair enough. Who's the most inspirational person that you know?
Oh man, I can answer questions all day about checklists on cards. That's a tough one. Um, Probably my mother, just because she's annoyingly inspirational. You
Hmm.
know, I remember in high school when I was playing basketball or playing football or golf, I'd wake up and she went to school because she was also a teacher, and she laminated inspirational quotes with like a kitten looking into the mirror and seeing a lion, and so she put that up there for me to get excited for my game that day, and just stuff like that. So she was always that way, very supportive, very loving, and always wanting the best for me. So I would say her 100%.
Look at you going straight to the mom.
I know.
Why do you think she was so inspirational? You don't hear that very often. Like someone who's very intentional with her inspiration. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't know. She's always been that way. You know the story of the little engine that could?
Yeah.
I probably heard, I think I can from her like at least once a day. So I think she was just my father, he's a little bit more pessimistic than my mom. So I think she balanced him out.
Okay.
So one of my wife's favorite stories from since we've been married is we were visiting my parents and we're pulling into the garage And my mom said, "Okie dokie, Smokey." My dad just cold stone face says, "I hate when you say that." And she said, and then she says, "I say it every day." And he says, "I hate it every time you say it." But he's just, it's pretty funny. So I don't know. She's always just been a very optimistic person.
Amazing. I love it. I love hearing stories of people's parents and how it shaped them and the things that stood out to them. It's killer.
Well, thank
Are,
you.
are they in Idaho?
So yes, yeah, they're in
Okay.
Idaho still. They're both. My dad now teaches college at BYU Idaho, and my mom is still teaching high school. So still doing their thing up in Idaho Falls.
Are you a teacher?
No, no.
Okay.
I
Okay.
decided not to follow their footsteps. So I got my degree in finance. So that's why I know some financial principles in my
Yeah.
videos. But I work in marketing. So I'm actually a project manager over some marketing in here in Utah. So
Got it. Got it. It seems like teaching's in the blood.
yeah,
In
I know
the DNA
that
of the fam.
channel. It's very, I'm sure for some people stale because of that, but I enjoy it. So
Yeah. Yeah. What's your impulse snack that you buy when you're sitting in the checkout line at the grocery store?
sweet or salty?
Your pick.
If it's salty, I always go with Fritos, and I don't know why. I always go with Fritos. And then for sweet, I'll always go with the cookies and cream bar. Either that or Sour Patch Kids.
Cookies and cream bar. What is this?
Do you guys not have cookies? You have cookies and the Hershey's. It's like the white chocolate with
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. No, I've never tried it.
It's like it's popular, but it's not like a very picked choice.
Yeah.
So I also enjoy the colored Tootsie Rolls, like the different colors. Those are really good. But my taste in candy may be weird. So
Yeah, I've asked that question probably 100 times in the last 2 years. That's the first time I've heard the cookies and cream bar, or Sour Patch, which is surprising because Sour Patch is somewhat popular.
yeah, like the watermelon Sour Patch, those are awesome.
Wow. I didn't like Fritos growing up either. And then the honey barbecue, like curly ones came out
Totally.
and it was done. Like I remember just killing those things in high school and
Yeah,
college.
the chili cheese were game changers for sure too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Isn't
I need
that
to ask.
fun? Yeah, go
You
ahead.
say your thing. What were you saying?
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, isn't it fun talking about gross food that just wrecks your body?
I know I feel bad for the people listening. I'm sorry. But what's your favorite baseball card or sports card that you have?
I'm much more of a basketball collector, but I would say I would go through like my Michael Porter Jr. stuff. I'm a huge fan of him just for who he is as a guy. Um, I would probably point to either the George Brett rookies that I have or a couple of the 54, 55, or 56 mantle that I have.
Nice.
I got a pretty sweet mantle collection earlier this year that I got graded and graded pretty well that I have grown very fond of, and I've got sucked into the mantle world. So
I would recommend if you can afford it, go get one of those 51 Bowmans. They're gonna be out of everybody's price range here soon. They're already out of mine. So if you can afford it, do it, man.
I cannot afford it. So
I know any mid-grade mantle. If you want a mid-grade mantle rookie, you're looking at 30 grand. It's insane.
Yeah, just dumb. I today I was telling you I sent in an order, and I sent in an order to SGC that had a lot of things, but a lot of mid 90s Griffey, like Bowman's Best Refractor, Bowman's Best Atomic Refractors that I've been holding on to for a while. I love that era of sports cards. I don't know if you're into like the late 90s stuff, but like the Griffies, the Chippers, the Bonds, the McGuires, like, I get sucked into that world, and I spend way too much money on it.
I would love to talk to you about that sometime because I don't quite get why the basketball market for 90s inserts the way it is compared to the baseball market. Because the baseball market, there's hardly any like inserts, even like the PMGs that are worth anything close to the basketball market. You know, we had in the last golden auction a PMG of Steve Nash go for $100,000, right?
Yeah.
You'll be pressed to find any baseball card right now in that price range. So I think buying baseball inserts from that era eventually will catch on. So I think that's a really smart move.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a very underappreciated. It is starting to take off for sure. I'm starting to see a lot of interest in that world. I tell you, I think the international side of basketball, it just changes the game completely. It just does. That's why Ichiro, like to me, is probably the best buy in all of baseball. He's 3 years away from getting the Hall of Fame, and all of Japan's going to go flocking to get his rookies when he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's a killer buy. 2001 Topps Ichiros are just stupid cheap right now.
if you want to go have something mind blowing, go look at his Bowman Chrome refractors. PSA 8 Bowman Chrome refractors less than $1,000 right now. And if you think of like nowadays refractors in Topps Chrome or in Prism, there's thousands or tens of thousands of them. That was not the case back then at all.
No.
Bowman Chrome autographs, that's the next best thing. So those things are really undervalued too. I've meant to get into it, but I do the same thing where I keep buying the same couple guys. I need to get out of that habit. So
yeah, no, you're exactly right. I'm actually looking at one here. I mentioned this on the video the other day. Like, this is his Topps 2001 Topps home team advantage, which is like that's the Montgomery Club back then, and that's like for members only. I can't get my finger right, and you have that little HTA logo on there. But I mean, I got that 9 for $175, and there's the PSA pop report on that is less than 300. The PSA pop report on the Tiffany from 2001 is 80.
Yeah.
80.
It's insane.
Like, go buy them.
People don't realize that. I know baseball is an old man sport, but there's so much buying opportunities in some of these players. It really is insane. So fun Ichiro story. Where is it? What side is it on? This foul ball is from Ichiro. I got it at a game in Seattle.
Oh.
Yeah. I have a letter of authenticity from the Mariners. They give it to you. That's the foul ball club.
Oh, that's cool.
That's from my childhood. So Ichiro's always had a special place in my heart. Like he was so good. He still is so good. If you look at, he debuted, I think, at age 27. Yeah. We missed almost his entire prime, and he still has like around 60 to 70 WAR. He was good. So
good. So good. Yeah. And I think the thing about the next 5 years in baseball is the guys that we grew up with in like early 30-year-old guys to, early 40-year-old guys are starting to hit Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And we have disposable income now. Like, they're going to flock in and buy up cards more than we were seeing a decade ago, I think.
Totally. Even Pujols, I know he's still playing, which is hurting his values, but his stuff is still cheap for the impact he's had in the game. So
yeah, I was able to acquire some Pujols stuff. I will say I'm pretty impressed with how well his like rookie autos sell. Some of that stuff, I'm like, holy crap, people go crazy for this.
Well, let's highlight his Bowman Chrome autograph real quick. There's only 500 of them. There's no parallels and there's no base. There's 500 of them. You're going to have 500 Juan Soto BGS 95s or more. But and that's without any refractors included, but there's only 500 Pujols. You can get one for, I know it's a lot of money for majority of people, but around $10,000 to maybe $20,000. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And like, I know people argue on like what the importance of market cap is. And I think most people are right. Like it's the point against it is like, of course you're not going to you're not going to be able to liquidate all these cards at a certain price and like actually run a good fair market cap. But when you do the market cap on a guy like Pujols with his Bowmans and compare it to market cap of Juan Soto, it is pretty mind blowing to think, okay, this much capacity could go into a player versus this much. That to me is where market cap is pretty valuable to see. Like, there's a lot of room to grow for some of these guys.
Yeah. And I think every once or twice a year, everybody who collects modern, and I know you have a lot of modern, we also have a lot of other stuff too, but you will look at your collection and you'll start to think what you could get if you sold everything, right? Yeah. You always rethink your personal collection, but you can't do it. You can't do it or else you're going to drive yourself crazy. And especially if you're paying those taxes and everything. But if you were to resell everything, let me ask you that. If you were to sell everything you owned, what would you target? Like, what would be where you would restart with all the money you had?
Yeah, I would. That's a question. I thought about that a lot. I would probably go and buy. I would double down on guys I know are just solid investments, like the Ichiros and Pujolses and Kobe Bryant's and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's. I would go all in on that and diversify across sports and be very comfortable with that.
Would you buy Juan Soto?
I probably wouldn't.
That's crazy. I know it's so tough. And I probably would just because I'm a sucker. But I've been looking at his baseball reference page. And if you want to look at anything beautiful, that's the one thing to look at. So
yeah. He's legit, man. Yeah, he's legit. If I was to go modern, I would probably get sucked into like the Bobby Witt bandwagon. I have plenty of Bobby Witts, trust me. But like, I would probably go deeper into the Bobby Witt world.
As a Royals fan, I'm sure you have a lot of Bobby Witts.
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to be highlighting him a little bit in my next video. So you'll see Bobby Witt up there next to Willie Mays. We'll compare prices. So.
Okay, here we go. Willie versus Bobby. I like it.
Better and buy.
Volpe versus Trout. Good. So tell me a little bit about your schedule so folks know what you release a couple videos a week. What's kind of the thought process with your release schedule?
I generally release every Tuesday and Thursday, and I usually release around 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time or 11 Eastern, just because that's when I wake up before I go to work. I'll put the video out. But every once in a while, I'll have a 3 times a week upload on Friday or Sunday. So if you want to see everything right off when it's printed out, actually published, check out Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday. Scottie B.
Yep, Scottie B Cards. Very unique name, right?
It is. It's got it rolls off your tongue very naturally.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the link will be in the show notes, guys. Scottie, thanks so much for joining, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for watching, guys.